next thing we're going to take a look at are called, in the SPC world, they're called rules. They also can be referred to as signals. And in the previous session, we took a look at the upper control limit and lower control limit. And if a point went outside of that, then we weren't operating in our normal range historically. But we could have other situations that occur even though the points stayed within the control limits, like which is shown in the chart here. We have our control limit and all our points are within the lower control limit and upper control limit. So we can see we started out and values were varying, and that's kind of our healthy process. We expect values to vary within our control limits. But then we see that we got 6 consecutive points all increasing here, and now the red dots are shown. So that was looking for a pattern of our X bar values in this case, all increasing 6 in a row. We're not sure what that's going to indicate. It might indicate that we're going to go outside our control limits. So we might want to alert people or start taking action at that point before they actually go outside our control limits. So we use rules to do that. And so in this case, we are looking for 6 consecutive points increasing, but there's different types. You could have some that are, for example, you have 10 points all on the same side of the X bar line. And that could trigger a rule, because normally for this X bar to be calculated, we have points on both sides because that's the average. But if we're all of a sudden starting to see points on one side, then it means something's changing in our process and we're starting to drift away from our normal quality production that we do. There's different sources for these rules also. There's some predefined ones and there's different sources for those. So we have Westinghouse rules. They came up with some rules. And then there's also Nelson rules. So there's like 8 different rules in the Nelson rules. There might be some other ones as well. And I think it's also important to note that the Ignition SPC module also supports custom rules. So you can copy the Westinghouse rule we have in there, modify it to your own needs. Sometimes your customer might require a different rule, and so we have the flexibility if you need to. Your hands aren't tied. You can go in there and create that custom rule. It's also important to note that with normal SPC systems, somebody has to pull up the control chart and look at it and go, oh, I have some red dots. I have a rule violation of some sort. But somebody needs to actually be there. There has to be a human to pull up the chart. And if they're busy and they're not getting to it, how long is this going to persist for before action is taken to correct the problem? So it's important to know that the Ignition SPC module, every time a sample data is taken, it will reevaluate the rules that you tell it to reevaluate for that sample and definition. And it then sets a tag in Ignition. And now, because the tag is set in Ignition, you can send out a text message, you can send out email, you can have indication on the screen, you can have a pop-up, voice alert, alarms, all kinds of things that you can do as a result of a violating rule. And so you immediately, as soon as possible, let people know, and you can take action and correct it sooner. All resulting in better efficiency and less waste product and all that.